Chapter 7.6. We're now going to start talking about graphing linear systems. We did graphing just regular lines, or linear inequalities. And now we're going to move on to systems of linear inequalities. All right, so let's move on here. All right, so here's our standard. It's two parts. This is the second part of AREI 12. You'll have a quiz on it. It'll be the second part, okay? And this one is mainly focusing on system of linear inequalities and two variables, okay? And the intersection of them, and it's mainly graphing, okay? So let's move on. All right, here we go. We got two lines. So let's go ahead and let's plot some points here and put them on. I'm going to graph the red line first. Okay, so we'll go ahead and I got an x or a y-intercept of -2. So I'm going to put one here at -2, and then I've got a slope of -1. So I'm going to go down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. I can go up 1, left 1, got one here, up 1, left 1, got one here. And I can go ahead and continue on this line. And let's get a line going here. Got a line, we'll make it red. Then we'll have this thing all the way across, put it all the way across the graph. All right, looks good. Now, let's move on to the blue one. All right, so I got y-intercept of 6, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I got a dot, and then I'm going to go, well, if I went up 3 and over 1, I'm going to run out of room, so we'll just do the opposite. We'll go down 3. Left 1, down 3, left 1. There's our intersection, down 3, left 1. Okay, and now we'll go ahead and we will draw a line here. And it's probably up in here, about there. Drop it down. And it's pretty close. Okay, so that's what it would be if I had two lines that I was graphing. Okay, if this was a linear system. But we're talking about that would be a linear system of equations. But what we're going to do here is we're going to change this so that we've got less than or equal to, and we've got that this one is also less than or equal to. Okay, so now what we have is I don't have to worry about making either one of these lines dotted, but now I got to shade different sides. So I'm going to start with the red line here. So I'm talking about the values that are below this line, right? Y is less than -x minus 2. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shade in all of the values for the red one here below the line, right? So it's going to be all of this area below the line. Okay, and in here. Okay, so we'll shade all this area. Okay, and it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm also going to lighten this up just a little bit, just to make it a little bit easier to see here. Okay, next, let's go ahead and we're going to shade the area for my blue equation here, right? Y is less than 3x plus 6. Well, less than would be where the y values are lower, right? So it's going to be these areas below. Okay, so it's going to be here, 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 and all of this, okay? So hopefully you picked up pretty quickly here that where we solve a linear system, what we get is we get an individual point, right? We got this point here that was talking about that's the intersection, that's the answer. But when we have, or that's the solution, but when we have linear inequalities, what we talk about is we have two different shaded areas that are solution. It's the same idea. We're going to look to see where does it intersect. Okay, and really, I'll put this in purple. It's this area here. Okay, you can see where there's two sections. Okay, both these sections, they intersect in that area, okay? So I really wouldn't have to worry about this or this. I'm just talking about this area. Now you'll see when I do this, I'm going to do it a little bit different way than shade both sides. I'll show you now. All right, here's another one. I got y is less than x minus 4 and y is greater than -x plus 3. Let's go ahead and let's put in plot some points. Let's graph our first one, the red one here. I'm going to do it in red again, so I'm going to start at -4 and I go up 1 over 1. Okay, and I'm just going to keep going across the graph this way, and we'll go ahead and graph a line. Now in this case I have to graph this as a dotted line, all right, because it's only less than. Okay, so and have this thing come all the way across the graph. like that. And let's make it red. All right. Now, let's go ahead and graph the blue line. Okay, we're going to graph the blue one, and we've got a negative x slope, and we start at positive 3, 1, 2, 3, and this is a down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1, down 1, right 1. And it looks like the intersection of the two lines is going to be a fraction there, but I'm really not going to have to worry about it, because I'm not looking for the intersection of where the lines I'm not looking for where the lines intersect. I'm looking for where the shading intersects. Okay, so we'll take this line and we'll drop it all the way across. And notice it is a solid line. Okay. Now, to decide how am I going to shade this? Okay, so what I like to do is I'm going to start with the red one, and it's the value's lower than it, right? So I would normally shade everything on this side. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to say I'm going to shade these areas. So I like to sort of draw in these arrows to show it's less than, okay? So it's all of these areas below this line. Okay. All right, so I would shade this whole area in, but it's not just that area that I'm shading. I'm also doing the area where its y is greater than this line. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to say everything above, right? Everything above this line would be shaded. And then I'm going to look to see where do these overlap, okay? So it would be this whole area would be shaded blue, and this whole area here would be shaded red. So where do they overlap? Well, they overlap in this area right here, right in here. Okay, cross, and I can go ahead and shade down. All right, and I would shade in all of this area. All right, so that's my solution. All right, let's try another one. Why don't you go ahead and try this next one? Go ahead and graph this one. Now I know there's 3 of them, but the idea remains the same. Go ahead and see if you can figure this one out. Go ahead. All right, let's do some graphing. Let's graph that red line first. I got a negative x, y is greater than negative x plus 2. It's a solid, it's going to be a solid line, right? Dotted line, solid line. So I'm going to start at 2, and then I've got a negative slope here. Let's go ahead and I'm just going to say where is y 4? So that would be here. It would be a horizontal line there. And then where is x less than 3? Let's do green. So I know that x is 3. That would be here. So, oops, it's supposed to be green. Green. There we go. Now I'm just going to skip a couple and come up here. Go down there. All right. Now, let's graph. All right, so I'm going to graph that first line, solid line. Okay, it's going to come up all the way through here, all the way across the graph again. Then I have a horizontal line, the blue line, right? That's going to be here, and it's dotted. And then I have the green line, which is also dotted, and it goes straight down, and I go this way. Okay, now to decide where do I actually graph these things, okay? So I'm going to look at the red line. The red line first is anything above this, right? So I'm going to talk about, here's my line. I'm going to graph above it, above it, above it, above it. And I like to draw my arrows sort of on each side of each of the axes, just kind of give myself a nice idea of where these things are where I would graph it. All right, next, let's look at the blue line. Okay, well, I'm talking about all the values that are lower than 4, so that would be everything below this line, okay? Below, 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 below. Okay, and then I'm looking at the green line, and where am I going to graph those? Okay, I'm going to graph those. That's also less than, so I'm going to talk about the lower values this way. Okay, it would actually be this little area there too. Okay, so now I'm looking to see where do all three of these things intersect. Okay, and hopefully you see that they all intersect all inside of this area here, right? It sort of makes a triangle. Okay, which is actually a very helpful thing to understand, especially if you start doing that whole coding business. So hopefully you remember when you were doing that and you were trying to create shapes on Hour of Code, something like that. You had to sort of use X and Y axes, and you could have used lines in order to create shapes rather than just create shapes. So you could have done shading that way. Okay. All right, let's try one more here. All right, why don't you try to do this one on your own first, and then I will show you. So go ahead, pause the video. All right, let's get this going. First line is a red line. It's going to be dotted. This one's going to be solid. That one's going to be dotted. All right, so y is greater than negative x. This means I have a 0 intercept, right? And it's the parent line, but it's the opposite, so it goes negative. Okay, go up there, come down here, and here. Okay, and then we're going to do the blue line. So this is x minus y is less than or equal to 4. Well, this is not in slope-intercept form, but it's in standard form, and it looks like I can find my intercepts very quickly. So let's see. If y is 0, x will be 4. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 1. All right, and then if x is 0, then y would be negative 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, and I can connect those dots, okay? And it looks like this is going to be a 1-to-1 slope, right? 1, 1, 1. In fact, let's see. If I put in 5, 1, does it work? X is 5, y is 1, 5 minus 1 is 4, so that works. And then finally, y is going to be less than 5, so we'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got a line here. Got a dot there, a dot over there. All right, now let's graph. Let's see. We'll do dotted lines first. I'm going to do the red one, so it's going to come up here, come across. All right, there's that one, and then we'll do I'm going to do the green one since I'm already in the dotted one. That's going to come all the way across here, also dotted. Now I need a solid line for the blue. Okay, so we'll do the blue line, and then that's going to be, looks like it's going to come up here. Does that look right? Yep, there we go. Go across there. Okay, now we have to decide which way are we going to graph these. Okay, so let's start with the red line. Okay, we're talking about y is greater than negative x. Okay, so we're talking about everything that is above this line, right? So we're going to talk about up here, above this way, right? Above this way. Okay, then let's talk about with the blue one. Okay, now this is where you got to be a little bit careful. Okay, you look at it, you just might look at this and say, oh, y is less than 4, so I must be going lower than this line. However, this is a negative y. Okay, so you might want to be a little bit careful with that. Now, what we could do is we could say, all right, let's test 0, 0, right? So if I put in 0, 0, 0 minus 0 is 0, 0 is less than 4. So we know the origin works, so we will shade the side that is closest to the origin, right? So we're gonna go above, okay? Now another way you could look at it is x is less than 4. So you could also say, all right, the values that are to the left, okay? Because those values where x is lower, okay? But in order to maintain consistency, let's keep going with the y values going up. Okay, so we know we're going to shade all of this area here. Okay, it looks like we're going to end up with the triangle here, which won't always be the case. So don't just think just because there's 3 of them that we're always going to end up with triangles that just happen to work out this way. Okay. But it's also a way you can create triangles. Okay, so you see everything above this line, everything above this line, everything below that line, and that to me looks like it's going to be everything on the inside here. So we can go ahead and graph or shade in all of this area here. Whoops, that looks terrible. Let's try that again. Let's do this. Yep, nope, don't want green. purple. There we go. So shade in everything inside of here. All right, well, there you have it. Bring your notes to class. Make sure you are ready to practice this and show me you know what you're doing. All right.